Now you've seen how bad things can get, and how quick they can get that way. Well, they can get a whole lot worse.
Marvel Rivals is not the Overwatch killer, but what it is a mirror. One that reflects just how far Overwatch has fallen. I mean, hear me out. Blizzard's struggles didn't start last week, right? But with Marvel Rivals exploding in popularity, Overwatch's problems are now clearer than ever. But is Marvel Rivals really to blame? Or is it Overwatch itself? Currently, everywhere you look, there's a story about Overwatch's record low player counts after the release of Marvel Rivals. Then there's Marvel Rivals hitting 10 million players in just 3 days. And of course, there's the inevitable talk about Marvel Rivals being the Overwatch killer that people have been prophesizing since Overwatch first released in 2016. However, I find this reaction, this verbose, extreme take, both too early and far too late. I say too early because the numbers we have on Overwatch's player counts are from Steam. And Steam only accounts for a tiny fraction of Overwatch's total player base. Yes, it is true that Overwatch 2 did hit a record low of 17,500 players on Steam. But that number can be misleading. The majority of Overwatch players aren't on Steam. They're on Battle.net or playing on console. And this is easy to prove. Let's go back to 2022 when Overwatch 2 launched. Its all-time high on Steam was 75,000 daily players. Meanwhile, at this time, Blizzard was reporting 35 million total players in the game's first month. And the daily player counts at this time were over 2.5 million. That means Steam's 75,000 daily players only made up 3% of Overwatch's total player base, which is assuredly less now and can't really be used to accurately depict the state of Overwatch. Now, I also find this news far too late, in the sense that Overwatch has been struggling long before Marvel Rivals came around. When Overwatch 2 released, the game was already in a state of disarray. Now, to be completely fair, I've played Overwatch for years. I loved the original game, and even gave Overwatch 2 a fair shot, and stuck with it for months after launch. But let's be honest, Overwatch 2 was not a real sequel in any sense. It was barely enough to be considered an update, let alone an entirely new game. It launched with a handful of new maps, a couple of new heroes, and a shift from 6v6 to 5v5. That's it. No PvE, no major shakeups. And for a lot of players, that wasn't enough. Blizzard's promise of a PvE story mode was completely absent at launch. Then it was delayed multiple times, and now it's been completely cancelled because the game underperformed. All this goes to show how Overwatch 2 stumbled right out of the gate. It left players frustrated, upset, and disillusioned, and it never came close to reaching the heights of its predecessors. But now, with Marvel Rivals release, those already glaring problems feel impossible to ignore. Because as I said, Marvel Rivals isn't just new competition for Overwatch. It's a mirror that reflects everything Overwatch has failed to deliver over the past few years. And while Overwatch 2 clings to its shrinking fanbase, Marvel Rivals has burst onto the scene with a fresh look, a fresh gameplay style, and most importantly, a feeling that Overwatch hasn't had in years: excitement. Playing Marvel Rivals feels like Overwatch, like it's been reborn better than ever. Most importantly, it gives all this content for free. No grinding through a battle pass to unlock heroes, no paying to access every character, just a massive free release roster of 33 playable characters, each with their own fun and unique playstyle. And it's these characters that really set Marvel Rivals apart from the competition. Obviously, the game had a massive head start with its roster, given that these characters are already world-renowned with rich, extensive lore laid out before them. Having a roster like this would have even given a game like Concord a fighting chance. But to Marvel Rivals' credit, what they've done with their heroes in this game is quite impressive. After just a week of playing, I've already heard every version of insert character is so broken because of insert ability. And while this might sound like a complaint, I actually think it's part of what makes Marvel Rivals feel so freeing after years of Overwatch's reign. When every character feels like they have insanely powerful abilities, matches stop being a stale face-off of meta tactics and optimal rosters. They turn into chaotic, exciting rounds filled with different character combos and unpredictable battles. You know, even when I'm losing, I'm still enjoying every moment of it. And this is something I haven't felt in Overwatch in a long time. Overwatch has leaned so heavily into its competitive aspect, perfectly balancing every single character, that it's lost a lot of its casual players. Another big difference that I noticed between Marvel Rivals and Overwatch is that Marvel Rivals doesn't have a role queue. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, role queue is a thing Overwatch added in 2019. It makes it so every team has to have a set number of tanks, DPS, and healers. Meaning that if all the DPS slots are taken, you have to be a healer or tank. Or if the DPS and tank spots are taken, you have to play healer. Now, this is something I've never liked. I think it forces players into predetermined team comps and takes away from the creativity and freedom of choosing how you want to play. Contrast that with Marvel Rivals, where I can still play competitively with me and my friends while also picking whatever team comp we feel like. Want 4 tanks and 2 healers? Sure. Is it the most optimal team setup? Probably not, but it's fun, and that's the key. In Overwatch, you're constantly being forced into specific roles and characters, or else you risk getting steamrolled by a team that has a perfect counter to yours. The game feels like it's punishing you for not playing it the way it should be played, and that's something I haven't felt once in Marvel Rivals. And right now, I can't see it happening anytime soon. This absence of role queue and the freedom to play with multiple powerful characters is something I really hope Marvel Rivals sticks with. It's easy to see the game eventually overbalancing itself into a similar situation to Overwatch, but for now, it feels like a breath of fresh air, a stark contrast to the frustrations that have built up in Overwatch over the past few years. But while Marvel Rivals does a great job at highlighting these problems, it can't really be given full credit for Overwatch's decline. After all, Overwatch is an aging game, nearly a decade old now. And while there have been consistent updates, its core gameplay has remained largely the same, recently even reverting back to its original 6v6 format. It's gonna take a lot of time before the game is truly dead. Overwatch still enjoys millions of monthly players, and it has a dedicated fan base supporting it. That said, Marvel Rivals hasn't killed Overwatch. It's simply exposed everything that's been wrong with it over the years, everything we'd become complacent to. And it's done this by offering fresh content and exciting gameplay right out of the gate. Marvel Rivals has managed to carve out an alternative that has resonated with players and is able to stand on its own legs. There have been many games over the past 10 years that have tried and failed to topple the hero shooter king. But Marvel Rivals is the first one to see this level of hype and success. However, the real impact that this success has on Overwatch's player base will not be evident for many months to come, as we must wait for more accurate player count information to come out, and to see if Marvel Rivals' initial success can be maintained, or if this is a flash in the pan moment that will die out quickly. I personally remain optimistic about Marvel Rivals and its future, and I'm pleased with both the gameplay and how it's been received. Hopefully Overwatch can learn from this success, and with new competition can improve and bounce back to its glory days. But for now, I know which one I'll be spending my time playing. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I think you might like hearing about another game I just can't put down. I discussed it in my most recent video, so if that sounds interesting to you, check it out. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like or even subscribing. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.